Okay, welcome to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. Today we did something interesting. We actually changed our topic literally right before this call, right before this recording, and we decided to do a podcast about how to show up for work when life sucks. And the reason why we chose this topic is because Shelby and I are low energy today for many reasons. We could go into the reasons, we could overanalyze it, but in reality, we're not the most rested. We're not the most creative. We're not the highest of all highs. And instead of faking it, we thought we would just bring it to you real. And we're going to make this up on the fly as we go and tell you what it's actually like to run a business when you don't really freaking feel like it.
Yeah, this is a part of it. God, this is just a. This is. I can't even talk right now, Laura. This is just so much a part of what it means to be self employed because we are human. It is unrealistic to
Yeah.
hold ourselves to this standard that we have to be on and 100% when all of the time in order to create success. And luckily in the past you and I have, like, whenever you're having a high, I'll be in a low, or vice versa. Like, we've balanced each other out. But I think recently, just with how hard we've been hustling in preparation for a really big, like, personal year, with you moving, with me moving, we've been just trying to do and catch up on a lot of work, and it's catching up to us.
Yeah, and there's this funny thing that you can do, right? Like you can be tired and still rock your coaching call. You can still be tired and record a podcast. You can lean into the discomfort and leverage it for yourself. And as we're both sitting here, I'm thinking that after we're done recording this, I'm going to look at my schedule and find out where I can create empty space, because not everything is an emergency. Not everything has to be done this week. That's the beauty of being self-employed, is that if I worked for someone else, I'd be at the mercy of whatever I was supposed to do that week for that business. But this week, maybe there's things I can shave off for some open space. Um, what do you think, Shelby?
Uh, I think about every time that you and I have tried to create open space and we can honor it for a little while, like we're like, I'm going to take this Friday off. And that's about as much as we can stand, right? Because we love what we do so much.
Yeah, it doesn't take like a week. It
Right.
just takes a day.
Right. Yes. So I think that especially in the beginning for me, and this is a pattern of thinking that does not serve me well most of the time, but this mentality of I have to be all in or I'm all out, it's like just not actually true. That we can hit the reset button, we can take a 3-day weekend, we can take a break for a few days and then feel really energized and really creative and really ready to get back on the horse. But if we just kept going, I just really think that this negative thought loop would just like swirl and get bigger and get worse. And then you're
Yeah.
likely to tap out for a more extended period of time. Um, so I was even telling Laura before we got on this call, I was like, I've wanted to quit our job like 7 times since Friday. And it's Monday, y'all. It like hasn't even it hasn't even been that long. Um, but there are these moments, and this is just a really insanely vulnerable look into probably the first time ever when Laura and I have both just not been feeling it. Um, I fully expect that we're gonna snap out of it by next week. Like I think we're gonna be fine. But I hope that when you hit up against your edge or your wall or you feel out of balance, that you remember this moment and like it's just normal. Just go take a rest.
Yeah. And in the earlier days, our brain wants to make it mean something. Oh, I know why I'm so tired and I'm uninspired. It's because I have the wrong niche. I know why I'm tired and I'm uninspired. It's because my website is not perfect. And so your brain will try to find reasons. And sometimes it's just because you're tired. And for a lot of you who are working and simultaneously building your practice at the same time, this is a line we're going to have to dance on, because we can do anything for a short period of time. And there is a period of time where you're going to hustle. You're going to use your free time to work on your business because it's all that you have. There are times you're going to be out of balance. And taking a intentional day off without guilt and without making it mean something is also a necessary skill to plug in to keep moving forward. We do this with our clients all the time. I remember, Shelby, you're coaching my younger sister, and she said, Shelby told me I need to take the week off, right? And she was so excited because, like, you gave her permission to take a week off. And she's like, I took one day off, and then I was so inspired, I just started doing so much stuff in my business. So it didn't even take like a whole week. Her brain wanted a whole week, but she just needed a day.
Yes.
And I think it's so cute. It's so cute how we get actual real-time feedback on how resting is sometimes the most important step in moving your practice forward.
Right. Because we're in it for the long game, right? If you are here listening to this podcast, there's a really high chance that you want to be a coach in some capacity forever. And so it's not a sprint. We don't have to go hard all of the time. And actually resting is a great tool. And for anyone that you ever work with, I'm sure that they struggle with this as well. It's such an American culture thing to hustle yourself into the ground. So the more you learn to rest, you will see it in other people. And you're like, man, if they would just like take a break or take a breather or go outside, they would probably have a fresh perspective on what's actually going on. But the most real, so even though today like sucks, today we're both not really feeling it. Today we both still showed up for a coaching call. We still crushed it. It was still good. I'm even getting on the preceptorship later tonight, and I fully know that I'm still going to be a great coach on that call. I'm going to get off this podcast with you, Laura, and go step outside for a little bit and come back and be present for that last hour of my day. But anyway, this all to be said, the time that this was actually the most real in my life is right after I had my daughter. And anyone who's a mom knows that postpartum fatigue, it's like a special form of torture. It was so challenging. And I would just remember waking up in the middle of the night to nurse my daughter, and the thoughts were relentless of you're never going to get back to coaching. You're so tired. You're probably not even a good coach. Who wants to be coached by you? You're just a mom now. All of these things that were so rude to me. So rude. But eventually I made the agreement with myself that like I cannot make life-altering decisions when I'm tired. So that means that I'm not going to quit my business during this really intense time, that I'm going to choose one thing every week that's going to keep me in the loop of my practice, making a Facebook post or showing up to a coaching call, listening to an inspirational podcast. Cough, cough. That's us. Listen to us when you're feeling low. But the goals became really, really small when I was really, really tired. And again, a lot of nurse coaches we talk to have these really wonderfully huge visions. They want to host retreats. They want a wellness center. They want to partner with other practitioners. They want to run their business completely solo. Like, they have really wildly beautiful visions. And so it can feel so big when you're so tired to wonder how you're going to pull that off feeling like you feel now, which is why it's so important to just take a break, take a rest. And it's likely going to be shorter than you think. It's probably going to be 3 or 4 days. You're going to feel a lot better about it. You're going to get recharged, and then you can get back on the saddle.
And you say something, Shelby, that one of my favorite phrases is you say, like, that's future Laura's problem or future Shelby's problem. Like, giving the brain permission also to postpone the problem solving, because just like you illustrated with being so tired and up with your daughter, and this happens to me too, anytime you're really depleted, it can be a habit for us to perseverate over all the thoughts about why this is how it's always going to be. It's never going to get better. We suck. Life sucks. Our bedroom comforter's the wrong color. Our socks are not comfortable. Like, it's just, right? It's like the wrong time to enjoy or take for any seriousness any of those thoughts, and just knowing that it's going to be temporary. I think another thing we could add on to this topic too is that there are different things in our business that take different types of energy. So we can also honor low energy by doing something that maybe doesn't require creativity, that doesn't maybe require us to be more extroverted. Like, we could also pick small things that feel good to get done, because we're low energy. So we can rest, but we could also just choose to get a few things done that need to be done that don't take a whole lot of energy or creativity or brain power.
Right. So, that being said, Laura, let's make that real for them. What are some low energy things that you like to check off the list? That still like aren't fluffy, right? They're not they're not overhauling your website at midnight because you need to change it. You know, like what's a more low-hanging fruit?
Oh gosh, this is actually I think I'm really good at this actually. So I'm so glad that you asked, because I'm like thinking, okay, even the way I feel today, and if you were my coach and you were like, with our business the way that it is, you were like, okay, Laura, you're low energy. Like, what's your low hanging fruit? What are you going to do? And the first thought that comes to my mind is to take out my calendar to look at from now until a month forward and schedule in time off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the first thing. Like, so the structure of the pace, because something has happened where I allowed myself to get a little too burnt out. And so in my mind, I'm like, my business will benefit if I change my pace this next month. And that makes me feel really, really good about it, because I'm trying to keep this from happening again, this state, right? I'm going to pace myself in a more sustainable pace. So looking at the calendar, scheduling in time, being more intentional with time in business. This is the perfect time to good old fashioned organize your desk. Like,
Yeah.
anything, like I have yellow sticky notes everywhere. Like, there's a way I can make my office feel less sucking me of energy right now. That is something that you could do. That's something we should do.
Yeah. I feel that as I'm looking around. So, hey, Mom, I know you listen to this podcast and you've been so wonderful to me, letting me use your office for the past few years. That's literally directly attached to your master bedroom. But I share my office with a baby grand piano, y'all. It's me in a corner and a baby grand piano in the background. So I'm looking around like, oh my gosh, baby grand piano, you just put stuff on it. There's so much stuff I need to address over there. And it feels productive. It feels good to clear that out, to clear the energy. And it'll probably take me 20 minutes. And that's done. And then I can be done. I can check the box.
Ooh, and I don't know. I think you could do this too, Shelby, but I always tell my clients, like, every 2 to 3 months, reorganize your office or like redecorate it. Do something like visually stimulating so it's a little new, and that always gives me like 10% more energy when I walk into my office in the morning. So like every quarter it gets tired. I'm like, I don't even like the way this is, and I don't even like this color anymore. And I'll put some new plants in it, just like some small stuff, and that will keep me going for another 3 months. So I think that we tell our clients, do not spend your time reorganizing your office, but if you are having a really low energy day, go for it, girls. Go for it, guys. Like anything that you can do to infuse a little bit more inspiration into your space.
Right. And if you are all listening to this being like, y'all, this is such boring and lame advice, but like what we're talking about here is setting the bar so low so you can win. So you can get a little bit of a dopamine hit in your brain to just boost you just a little bit. But set the bar really low. Set it so low that it's impossible to fail. And yeah, Laura and I hustle a lot because we like to. It's kind of like our energy dynamic to do really cool and amazing things. And in the past 30 days, we have hired some really amazing support staff for us to offload. So if you are a new nurse
Yeah.
coach, you don't have the luxury just yet to offload things in your business. But when you're a year or 18 months down the line, you will. So it won't be just you forever. All those tasks and stuff that you don't like, someone else. You can totally hire somebody else to do that for you. That's what's keeping me going right now, is knowing that our list of things that I am less than obsessed with are going to find a new home to someone who's really good at them too. So knowing that our energy bandwidth is opening up soon is also really helpful.
What about running your business when your life straight up sucks? Like you fought with your husband, you maybe you had a bill come in that you didn't know was going to come in, and you're feeling super scared and constricted with money. Like we see our clients go through ups and downs in life. A family member's really sick. There's all these things that happen. And yet we can't completely take off from our business. We can't completely walk away. I mean, we can for certain amounts of times, but for those of us who are in it for the long haul, we have to muster the motivation and the mindset to keep moving forward. And I'll share what mine is, like my hack that works for me. And then Shelby, I would love to hear about what you've done. And watching you go through your aneurysm, I mean, I think you could talk for hours on how you mustered the ability to keep coaching and growing your business while facing that. But for me, coaching's the easy part. Like coaching is the part where it actually energizes me inside of the call, because I'm not focused on me. It gives me a break from me and my bullshit and lets me focus on another human, which then makes me feel good. Mm-hmm. Like coaching makes me feel good. If I look at my business that had all my coaching calls as opportunities to feel better, to get relief from my own life, the work week looks different than like a mountain I can't climb.
Totally. I've heard you give this advice a lot in our coaching spaces, of whenever people are spinning and making it about them and they're a little bit going into victim mode. It's too hard. I can't do it. Nobody wants my help. Like just these relentless thought spins we get into. You don't even entertain it. You're just like, cool. Yes. Go serve someone. Go donate $20. Go like pay for the person behind you in Starbucks. Like go do something that feels good, and giving feels good. It's that like volunteer high. So even if you go coach for free, I've totally done that before. Just made a post on Facebook to say the first 3 people, come on in. let's not make it about you. Yeah, that's really good advice. But when life really sucks. When I got diagnosed with my aneurysm, life really sucked. Like life was really shitty and it was really hard. Not because had I not been told that I had an aneurysm, I would have not ever known. Like I wasn't symptomatic in that sort of way, but mentally and emotionally, it was incredibly taxing. And then here I am trying to pep talk people into stepping into their life's purpose. It was very ironic that it was so dark for me, and then I've chosen a role as a coach that sometimes doesn't make space for that. You know, like I think sometimes in the coaching world, we can only focus on the good and the shiny and the future, but we have to acknowledge like the darkness too. It's both. And so during that time, I started going to therapy, which is something I've literally wanted to do for probably 10 years. I finally got the balls to do it, and learned how to live with that amount of anxiety in my life. So that meant, but also on the same time, right? So I'm dealing with that like 24/7. That never stopped. The negative thought process was just didn't cease for like 12 months. But in the same vein as what you were mentioning earlier, Laura, like I got to show up to coaching and like it was a break from how terrible things were, how insecure my life was. And looking back on it, like coaching totally saved me during that time. Because had I would have stopped or just decided that like I needed to like have an extended break of time to figure it out, to figure out when my surgery was going to be, I probably would have stopped altogether. There would have been very little momentum in my life that was future oriented. And one day at a time, team. It's really easy to worry about, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? Especially when the what ifs in your head are like, what if I die? Like, what if I die? Then what? Like, that's a big what if. The answer is actually pretty simple, right? Laura would have taken my calls and probably reimbursed my contracts. Like that would have been how that played out. But whenever the what ifs are really big, you just got to take it hour by hour, day by day, and eventually you will have the capacity to take it week by week and month by month. But being service focused during that time was a total lifesaver.
Yeah, and your business grew exponentially during that time. It wasn't just like you weren't just hanging on, it was growing exponentially. And you were making an impact in a lot of people's lives. It was a trip to watch as an observer because there was just so many behind the scenes ups and downs and scans and results and dates and changes. And it was just like purgatory. It was like, you know, you were just in the hallway waiting for a long time, and you handled it incredibly well. And I think that your personal story, and I don't want to be insensitive or not be empathetic to our clients' stories, but there are times where I'm like, look, Shelby built a business with an aneurysm in her chest. So like, this is not that big of a deal. Like, I do use your story as an example of what's possible when we manage our thoughts and manage our energy. And this leads me to like one other space that I wanted to take this. And this is more of a spiritual space. So life is happening to us. We have, you know, let's just say you're in a week, and by all intents and purposes, your life sucks, or you believe your life sucks that week. And I remember one of these moments really well early on. It was very early in my practice. Financially, I was really stressed. I might have just hired my coach. I don't know. So I had debt, you know, on my company credit card, had a husband who's waiting for me to make money, all the things. And my preschool that my kids went to hadn't cashed a check from 6 months earlier, and they caught it. So it was like, I don't know, $1,200. And so I get that message, hey, Laura, you know, can you bring a check for $1,200? It looks like June didn't go through or something. And I was just like, threw my hands up and started to cry. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, what did I do to deserve this? Like, who loses a check and who doesn't even realize that the check didn't get cashed? Like, I was beating myself up. And I had a call in like 10 minutes. And I'm like, well, to be continued, because I'm going to pause this and I'm going to go serve. And my client showed up with money worries. That's what she wanted to talk about. And I got to share what had just happened to me and how let's face this bullshit head on together. I feel like Spirit will also give us clients. When our life sucks and you're facing something, you will start getting clients that are facing the same thing, because you learn, and from your own container, you learn, you grow alongside your clients. And there's also beauty in that. So watch when you start having themes in your own life, who you attract as clients. And from that standpoint, after I hung up from that call, I remember just kind of laughing, thinking, that was an interesting way. You know, that was a really interesting way to for Spirit or for God or whatever your word is to come and make itself known that, hey, this is something you need to focus on. Slow down so that you don't not realize that checks aren't being cashed in your checking account.
I remember when that happened. I remember. And
you do?
I do. Now I totally forgot that happened until you started telling that story.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I totally remember when that happened. And you're just like, Shelby, they didn't catch it. And I was like, yeah. I didn't have any idea that it was so big for you. Like you
Yeah,
you were just
two
like
kids for a month of preschool.
yeah, you're just angry, and I could see that you were
Like a
angry.
$1,200 bill.
Yeah. But I didn't know that it was like this huge thing for you. Um so funny. It's so funny. And it's amazing to have this kind of perspective now, right? But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I don't know where I was going with that train of thought. I remember when that happened. What else feels important to talk about here?
I think using the definition for work. So we've been showing up for work when life sucks our entire lives because we have to, because we work for someone else, because we punch a time card, because we have limited sick time, because there's expectations, because there's circumstances that will happen to you if you miss too much work. So if we've been an employee most of our life, we know how to show up when life sucks. And we have to continue doing that when we work for ourselves as well. But although in some ways it's harder because we don't have extrinsic or external things, guardrails keeping us working, we can also make allowances for ourselves. We can create PTO. We can look at our schedule and clear it if possible. There's all sorts of ways to support ourselves better when life sucks as an entrepreneur than I think when as an employee.
Yeah. Yeah, and no one on this planet better knows how to show up for work when life sucks than nurses. And show up to work that also sucks. So yes, we absolutely do not want the work in your business to suck 100% of the time. I also think it's unrealistic to tell you that it's all roses and rainbows, just because we have preferences on what we like to do and what we don't like to do. But yeah, there's no one that better understands that than the nurses. And yeah, whenever you don't have to make that dreaded call into like the nursing supervisor saying that you need like a mental health day, and you just like pick up the phone and call yourself, you're like, hey, we gotta like take some time. It's so much more. I just feel so much more held in my business than I ever did working in the hospital. Like there's just so much less guilt now.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to use like right now as an example for you and I, Shelby. Like today we both got on this call and we're just like, you know what? Like the topic we were going to talk about, it's not the right day to talk about that topic because we're not feeling it. We're feeling this way. Let's actually just talk about the way that we feel and the way we continue to show up. Now, if we had both called out today from our nursing job, then because we really needed a mental health day, the whole freaking day is ruined because you're worried about being in trouble when you get back to work. So, like, even when you tried to take mental health days, they didn't really work because there was guilt and then there was judgment and there's stuff that you had to deal with when you go back. And I just remember like needing a break, but it was like more painful to take a break than to just keep going. And that's, I think, that straight trajectory to burnout. It's so much easier. I mean, even if the worst case scenario, you have client calls all day, you call in sick to your calls.
Right.
And most of your clients are going to be cool with it. Like that's the worst case scenario. And you are modeling healthy behavior. Hey, I was not feeling well, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I needed to take the day off. Thank you so much for allowing me to do that. That's also okay. So this, even though it's more difficult to make yourself work when you don't have anyone to call into, it is so much easier to take care of yourself inside of your own practice.
100%. And you know what's funny is that your brain and my brain went to the same place, just differently in that moment. because I remember this one time I picked up a shift when I was working in the ER. And when you're in the ER, you can do cool things like only pick up 4 hours of a shift. Like, it's nice. So I was going in for the princess shift from 11 to 3. And I got there and it wasn't busy yet. And one of the charge nurses that I really loved, his name was Mario. Mario, for whatever reason you're listening, I miss you so much. But he was one of the greatest um, charge nurses I ever worked for. And I got there and he just looks at me and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. Like, I'm not okay." Like, this was when I was like bumping up real hard against the burnout line and compassion fatigue and secondary trauma syndrome. And he's like, "Do you need to go?" And I was like, "No, I think I can stay." And he's like, "Hey, listen, like, you're no good to me here if you're like this. You need to go." And he let me leave, which was very kind of him. I don't know if he actually had the authority to do that, but he let me leave. And I just I just went and sat in my car for like an hour after he left in the hospital parking lot, because I was just like so drained and I felt so bad, and I was waiting for the call to come back, and I was, just like all of this mental drama that made that day worse. And like now I can just, it'll take me 10 minutes to clear my whole day if that's what it needed, right? And I can always, I'm using air quotes, like make up for it or add on an extra session. I can give more value when I'm feeling better.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I feel, I feel like I'm in, this is like a really extreme example to where you and I are both like really meh. This is uncommon for us. So I would say about,
This is very uncommon.
yeah, I would say that once a year, Laura and I each have a moment to where we're just like, God, it's so hard. And it is. It just is. But I know for a fact that we are going to get back on the saddle probably by Wednesday, because we have every time before. Like, I have the confidence to know that this is temporary.
Mm-hmm.
I have the trust that you're going to show up, that I'm going to show up, that we're going to do what we need to do, and it's going to be just fine.
Dude, Shelby, we could be like one song away from like full on creative mode. Like, it's so funny. Like, because we know it's so temporary, like we could literally change state. Like, we also possess all the coachy tools to change state. Doesn't feel appropriate right now. Like, that's not the direction I'd want to take this for us. But also tomorrow morning be like, "Oh my God, Laura, I slept great. I had this best dream and da-da-da, and we're going to do this. And I've already worked on this." Like, that's happened so many times. And I think because we're in a partnership, we're watching it with each other, which then makes us remember how temporary it is when we're in it also. So another plug to have a coach, another plug for all y'all to have a community. Because if you are on your own, your brain will tell you it's going to be like this forever. It will not remind you that you can change state. It will not remind you that you can take time off. And that's the beauty of a holistic business coach, a holistic community, to help you ride those waves when they come. They are coming. They are part of it, to help you ride those waves without suffering as much as we have in the past.
I'm so glad that you were just like, I don't feel like it's the right move for us to change state right now, because I'm like, Laura, damn it, I just want to feel it. I just want to be sad. I just want to be tired. But you and I know that it gets to be temporary because I have a preceptorship call in like 3 hours, so I'm gonna have to like put on some Enrique Iglesias and do a little dance to feel better about it. But even just talking about the potential change of state, I can like feel it in my face. Like, I can feel it start to dissolve. I can feel it start to shift, even just with you mentioning that. But yeah, I hope for everyone who's listening that this just didn't feel like a giant vent fest on me and Laura's behalf. I hope that it can shed a light to where I don't feel like a lot of people do.
I hope it does. Dude, I hope it did. I hope it sounded exactly like, I hope this was exactly what people needed to hear. Like, the realness of this. Like, let's make it real. Like, we didn't just bitch the entire time, but we didn't hide the fact that we're like a 5 out of 10 today. We're just like, honestly, I could go put my pajamas on and call it a day, straight up. And I too have a coaching call, so I will listen to some music, I've been listening to the Grey's Anatomy soundtrack and like just loving, like remembering so many episodes. And that's what I'll probably go do is walk and listen to some Grey's Anatomy soundtrack, come back and freaking rock our coaching calls.
Yeah.
Even though we're a meh.
Even though we're meh. Yeah. Y'all, I wish I had like a oorah way to end this episode, but I just simply don't. But I'm so appreciative of each of you for listening. And if you are in the middle of a meh day or week or month, come hang out in our Facebook group. Out yourself. Let us support you and love on you and just normalize what you're going through. We would love to be the support that you need.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next week.